Today, we're jumping into a story of reconciliation that was literally 500 years in the making. We're talking about a single theological document that started to heal one of the deepest, most painful divisions in Western history, a division that goes right back to the very beginning of the Protestant Reformation.
So, let me just kick this off with a huge question for you. How do you even begin to solve an argument that's been raging for half a millennium? An argument that has shaped nations, cultures, and the faith of billions of people. That's the incredible scale of what we're digging into here.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with that centuries-old divide, then we'll get right to the heart of the core disagreement. From there, we'll explore the landmark breakthrough, see how they pulled it off, look at its growing legacy, and then finally, see what new conversations it's opening up today.
Okay, so first things first. To really understand why this agreement was such a big deal, we have to grasp the sheer scale of the problem. Our story kicks off with the Protestant Reformation, a moment that absolutely fractured Western Christianity, creating a split that for centuries seemed totally permanent.
You know, this timeline really puts it all into perspective. It starts in 1517 with Martin Luther. The Catholic Church responds, and then, for the most part, centuries of silence. It isn't until 1965, with the Second Vatican Council, that the door for real dialogue finally creaks open. And even then, it took another 30-plus years of incredibly hard work to get to that handshake in 1999. We're talking almost 500 years from the break to the beginning of the repair. Just incredible.
So what was this massive 500-year-old argument really all about? Well, it all boiled down to one of the most fundamental questions a person can ask. How am I saved? Or, to put it in more theological terms, how is a person made right with God?
The official theological term for this is justification. It's basically the doctrine that explains how we are cleansed of sin and considered righteous by God. And believe it or not, this single concept was the engine that drove the entire Reformation.
This slide really lays out the two sides that caused the split. On one side, you have the historic Protestant view, summed up by the Latin phrase sola fide, or faith alone. It argued that justification is a totally free gift from God, and you receive it just by having faith. On the other side, the historic Catholic view said, yes, faith is absolutely essential, but it has to be an active faith, one that shows itself through good works. Now, it might sound like a subtle difference, but that distinction led to centuries of mutual condemnation.
And then, after all those centuries of deadlock, we finally get to the breakthrough moment, the landmark 1999 Joint Declaration on the Doctrine of Justification, signed by the Lutheran World Federation and the Catholic Church.
So what did it do? Well, at its core, the Declaration created a shared, common understanding of justification. Now, here's the crucial part. It didn't magically erase all the theological differences. But what it did do was officially state that the harsh condemnations each side threw at the other back in the 16th century, well, they just don't apply anymore. This was absolutely monumental.
But how on earth did they pull this off? I mean, how did they find common ground without either side feeling like it had to betray its entire identity? The answer is this really brilliant theological tool, a whole new way of thinking about what agreement even looks like.
It's this concept called differentiated consensus. Think of it this way. It's not about making everyone use the exact same words. It's about agreeing on the fundamental, bottom-line truth of something, while giving each other the freedom to explain that truth using your own unique language and emphasis. The goal here is unity, not uniformity. It's a huge difference.
This quote just nails it. It's a model that proves you don't have to give up on your core principles to find common ground. You can hold firm to what you believe, while also recognizing that someone else is trying to talk about the very same core truth, just from a different angle.
So here's how they actually did it. Step 1, they found the absolute, non-negotiable common core, the belief that justification comes only through God's grace, period. Step 2, with that foundation set, they were honest about their differences, like how they talk about good works. And then, the final game-changing step. They affirmed that those different ways of talking were no longer reasons to condemn each other. They could actually coexist inside that bigger, shared agreement.
And, you know, the story doesn't just end in 1999. The success of this new model created this powerful ripple effect. It's become a cornerstone for the entire modern movement for Christian unity, which is often called ecumenism.
The first agreement was just the start. In 2006, the World Methodist Council came on board and affirmed the declaration.
Then, in this hugely symbolic moment in 2017, on the 500th anniversary of the Reformation no less, both the World Communion of Reformed Churches and the Anglican Communion joined in as well. The circle just keeps getting bigger.
So the big takeaway here is that this declaration isn't just some dusty historical document sitting on a shelf. It has become the living blueprint, the go-to reference point for how to tackle other really tough conversations. It's proof that deep historic reconciliation is actually possible.
So if that's the blueprint, where does it point us now? With this foundation of justification pretty much settled, what are the next big mountains to climb on the path to Christian unity?
Well, the next frontiers are just as challenging, if not more so. Theologians are now tackling deep differences over things like the Eucharist, ministry, and ordination, and even the very nature of the church itself. And on top of all that, they're talking about really important modern moral questions where a unified Christian voice is needed now more than ever.
The spirit that guides all this work is something theologians call a hermeneutics of trust. It's a fancy phrase, I know, but it boils down to something simple. It's a commitment to stop reading each other's traditions with suspicion, like they did for centuries, and to start reading them with charity, trusting that everyone at the table is genuinely seeking the same God.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. The joint declaration is so much more than a piece of paper. It's a testament to what's possible. It really makes you wonder, if a conflict this deep, this old, and this fundamental can find a path toward healing, what other walls, in our world, in our communities, maybe even in our own lives, aren't as permanent as we think?